Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Rich Dotson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
He's Garrett Price.
How's it going?
It's going well. We're talking rankings debate. It's all timed out because there's a player on here, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to trade for this player in a league, and I did it, and I overpaid. And sometimes, like we talked about this, really, like on a Nerd Herd show recently, and sometimes in like leagues, you have to be okay with overpaying. Obviously, if you go on my Twitter feed, you'll see that everybody says I'm an idiot, and we'll talk about it as we get closer to the end of the show for the trade. But, like sometimes you got to put yourself out there and you got to risk it. We talk about it all the time. Like you have to risk it in a player that you believe in. And sometimes you got to overpay because you don't set the price, right? You can't go make a trade without giving up what the other person wants. And it's either you accept it or you don't. So that being said, Garrett got a list of players and he's like, hey, we are different. We don't see eye to eye. You're 6'2", I'm 4'11". Like, what's going on here? Like, that's a nice belly button you got there. But hey, let's try and get you up on a stool, shall we?
I by the way, my favorite song from a Goofy movie
is what?
My favorite song from a Goofy movie.
Your favorite song from a Goofy movie?
The Goofy movie, the Disney movie. That you guys would have been cool teenagers by that point, but it was awesome when I was like 5.
Like Goofy had his own movie?
You've never even heard of the Goofy movie?
Or
Goofy never heard of it either.
Yeah. I know I met him at Disneyland and Disney World. I've met I met Mr. Goofy.
He has his own movie. He has actually a couple, and they're fantastic. And it's about him and his son Max. And Max is trying to get to the Powerline concert, and Powerline sings a song called "I Die," and it was ahead of its time. It was a great song.
It's living on generations later. Look at this. We're still talked about to this day.
That's right.
Must have been a banger. That's all I got to say.
It was. All right.
Like, hey, Goofy's got a movie. I'd be like, yeah, okay. I believe you.
Oh, dude. There's a section of people that are either probably over the age of like 40 or under the age of 25 that are like, have no clue what I'm talking about. But that sweet spot in there, those people, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Those guys and gals are really into this. They're like,
they are loving this right now.
One of my favorite moments from Disney World is when we took my kids there, and my son, he wanted a Goofy hat. So it was like a hat that looked like Goofy and it had the ears and everything like that. He wore that thing everywhere in Disney World. It was awesome. A lot of funny pictures of him in that Goofy hat.
Yeah. What a stud.
They look goofy.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get into our rankings debate. Now, we always call it rankings debate. It's more of a rankings discussion because we're not here out to be cutthroat. We're not trying to make each other look stupid. We're just like, hey, I see this a little differently than you. Maybe we can come to some sort of common ground, or maybe one person gives quite a bit on this. We'll find out. Let's start here on the newly acquired Patriot, and that is A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, his consensus rank right now is 63rd overall in Dynasty. And this is Superflex tight end premium rankings, by the way. 63 overall, wide receiver 24. Now, I'm kind of in the middle on this. So this is going to be more between Matt and Rich because I'm at 68 overall and wide receiver 27. So I'm a little lower on like the overall wide receiver, but I'm not far off. Rich, you have him at 77 and wide receiver 29. Matt, you have him at 57, so 20 spots ahead and wide receiver 22. So we have a fairly big gap between you guys in the A.J. Brown rankings. And Matt, why don't we start with you? Why do you feel good about having A.J. Brown maybe a little higher than consensus in your rankings?
I mean, for me, I've always been an A.J. Brown guy, so I think I had him higher initially, probably than most of you guys, and obviously an aging commodity, correct? I mean, he's 29 years old, like you had mentioned, but all this dude does is produce, and it's not like last year in Philadelphia or the year before they were like this throw heavy offense. They were really running the heck out of the ball and the guy still produced. I mean, he all 4 years he was in Philadelphia, he got over 1,000 yards. His first 2 years there, coming out of a Tennessee Titans offense where he was a little disgruntled and a little angry, he comes to Philadelphia, fresh start, back-to-back 1,400 plus yard seasons. I mean, I know he was a couple of years younger than he is now, but it's starting to kind of sound very similar to the end of his tenure there with the Eagles, where he was a little bit disgruntled. He wasn't getting the ball enough. Now he's getting another fresh start here with the Patriots with a young, exciting quarterback. And obviously the offense is going to want to throw the ball more than Philadelphia did. So even at 29, he's a high output type of guy. I expect him to have probably a bounce back season compared to what he's been. He just cracked 1,000 yards last year. He was 1,003. The year before that, 1,079. I could see him getting back up to that 1,200 yard type of season. And to me, that's worth something. I think he's got a few more years in him. And for me, I've already dropped him quite a bit. I just haven't dropped him quite as quickly as you guys, because I think this is going to be a little bit of a resurgent year for him. Obviously, Father Time is undefeated, so he's going to keep dropping. But for me right now, he's still valued there at wide receiver 22. Last year finished as wide receiver 11. So on what everyone would consider a pretty down year.
Yeah, I did a slight adjustment here. Actually, I've actually moved A.J. Brown to my 73rd overall player. So it's up 4 spots. Still my wide receiver 29. And this really comes down to, like Matt explained it, right? Like A.J. Brown's a good player. He's 29 years old. You're going to get 2 more years of really good production, most likely, out of A.J. Brown. And for me, like I always like do my rankings is like how I would draft them in a startup, right? Like that's how I kind of or their value in a startup, not necessarily like how I would take them in order, but like their value I look at in a startup draft, essentially. So I always push quarterbacks up because I think quarterbacks are the most valuable in Superflex. I always have quarterbacks ranked higher, which naturally push people down. It's why Matt probably has A.J. Brown ranked higher in his ranks overall. But I have him at wide receiver 29, and it's a tough spot for players like this and like Christian McCaffrey, right? Where you're like, you're playing the game of Dynasty. You're in the 5th round of, or say this, like the 6th, 7th round of your draft. And for me, it comes down to like how my team build is, right? Like if like, man, like a lot of teams went sideways, traded back, want future picks and stuff. And like my teams could win the league this year, next year for sure. Like, if I get A.J. Brown, I'm taking him. I usually don't do my builds like that, but sometimes I've seen the team come around that way. And for me, it just comes down to an age preference, right? Like, when you're weighting everything, like age, just like anything Dynasty, like age is one of the number one arguments against anybody, right? Like, oh, dude, he's 27. Like, even when it's not there, when it's around the corner, people are talking about
it's coming,
right? Yeah, like it's like you have 2 more years and like, oh, he's 27. Like you got 2 more years till he's 29. Like, he's gonna be 28 next year. Like, okay, and like. Those are good windows. Like 3 to 4 years is plenty of time. But when you hit 29, unfortunately, like it really is something where like it can go sideways at any point, right? Like any point, somebody could lose a step and they're not as good. So at 29, I still expect him to sell, but at 30, I think he'll be good if he takes a step back. It wouldn't be like shock to the world, right? We're going to have a lot of younger guys take a step forward as well, which would naturally push them down as well. Like some of the rookies this year, we have Romo Dunze, Marv Harrison, like guys are already ahead of them anyways, but like it really solidifies itself. And then next year, there's a whole batch of rookies coming in, Cam Coleman, Jeremiah Smith, they put people down. And I do think about that as well. Like I look at Dynasty like you always play Garrett in this 2 to 3 year window, right? Mm-hmm. So like I'm accounting for like, okay, like what's his value next year as well? Like, is it okay to take him this right here and try and win for these 2 years and lose a lot of value? Because in that range where I have him, like I have Devontae Smith, Denzel Boston, I have Jamison Williams and T. Higgins ahead of him, so like that's where I'm kind of like really debating. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, because if you want to get a really good player, it's kind of hard to say no. And I don't care if they have 2 years left, because it's a long time in Dynasty. But for me in a startup build, like it's hard for me to really grab those kind of guys, right? Like same thing with Christian McCaffrey, no matter how good I think he is.
Let's say you're in the 5th round, right? You're talking, that's kind of the range we're in right now, right? And you've gone your startup draft has gone kind of funky. You've gotten, Brock Bowers, a couple of good running backs, a quarterback. So, you got 4 really high end guys. And then you're looking at Denzel Boston, you're looking at AJ Brown, and you're looking at
Jameson
who else would, Jameson Williams. Like T. Higgins, which one of those guys makes you feel better about your roster for the next 2 or 3 years? Because I think it's AJ Brown. That's why I would put him in this range. Because if things went sideways and you haven't gotten a wide receiver yet, and he's staring you in the face, he's going to get you the most production for the next couple of years, I think. Don't you think that?
Listen, they're in the same tier. Like, I like Jameson Williams at 25 years old. I really like, he was a wide receiver 1 pretty much last year as well. So, like, I like him in that kind of that range. But, like, I get what you're saying. Like, it's why it's hard for me to argue against it, right? Like, it's when you see these talking head TV shows and they just argue just to argue, like, I hate just to argue and just to argue, right? Like, I really do. I think it's just disingenuous. Like, I think everybody should just have common sense in the world. And, like, for me to say, Matt, you're wrong would be disingenuous. Like, you're right. Like, AJ Brown's a good player for a couple of years, and doesn't mean T. Higgins, Jameson Williams even have a longer leash, really. Like, that's why Devontae Smith behind him at 27 years old. I would just rather go ahead and gamble. Like, and I almost rank him there too, like in my rank set, knowing that he'll be gone by the time he's there and I don't have to worry about it. Like, some non-net conundrum. And, like, he's really good value there. Because where do you have him at overall? What's your overall?
57th overall.
So in that range, I have Jordan Tyson, KC Concepcion, Jaylen Waddle, Javonte Williams, Nico Collins. And
Jordan Tyson, perfect example. Who would you feel better about on your roster? Jordan Tyson can't even get on the field. Dude's going to be gone for 2 months. I would feel a hell of a lot better about my build if I had AJ Brown on my roster than a Jordan Tyson. Because I just wouldn't know if I was getting anything out of that guy ever.
And the more you even think about, like, okay, I have Rashee Rice ahead of him. Like, do I think Rashee Rice really has a longer lifespan than AJ Brown with the way he goes? Like, Nico Collins, like we talked about, like, he's 27. Is a 28-year-old Nico Collins better than AJ Brown at 30? And do they have a long window? Jordan Tyson's hamstring can't stay on his body. Like, is that, he looked really good in camp. It's those. You're right. Those are tough decisions.
And here's what I mean. Because this is the hardest part about ranking, right? So we're having a rankings debate. This is one of those things where you can't plan for every single outcome of every single draft, right? So you kind of have to throw guys in sometimes that don't feel right, and maybe you wouldn't draft on the fly, but you have to put them in a range where it makes sense in a certain scenario, right? So it's like it's some feel and it's some, like, immediate instinct goes into this. Like, no, I would definitely take this guy ahead of this guy no matter what. So some of that goes into it, but I feel like there's some guys that you just have to put somewhere in a range that kind of makes sense. So they're on your radar in case something happens. It's like a break glass type of thing. You might not draft them. You might pass them up and go right to the next guy, depending on how your build is. If you've already got a couple wide receivers, or you're a very young build through your first 4, you would skip right over AJ Brown and you wouldn't even bother. You know what I mean? Because it just wouldn't fit the build that you're going with. But if he did somehow fit, you'd feel great about that pick in the late 50s, early 60s.
And I'm not worried about not hitting, but like I said, like Jordan Tyson, like, I know I have a longer window to trade for more value as well. And, like, here's another point where I'll look. So I try to, like, think about this, who's lower that I could kind of pair to as well. Like, I probably feel just as good about the value I would get out of, like, here's the thing when it comes to older receivers like that. Like, I know there's usually guys I can get later that the community doesn't like. Chris Godwin's a prime example, right? Like, I can get Chris Godwin, and Chris Godwin could potentially flirt with AJ Brown numbers in that offense, and I can get him a couple rounds later, and he's 9 months older than him, and he's my old receiver. Like, for if I want to try and win now, and I know, and that way I'm getting an insulated value somewhat of like a Jordan Tyson, who you couldn't trade right now. But, like, when he gets healthy, again, even if it's next year, there's still a massive window to get a huge return for him. So it's a game of, like, who's available. Like, oh, dude, if I want to win now, I ain't win now, but then Jordan Tyson's on the board, like, or Javonte Williams, like, I take the running back, and, like, I miss out on AJ Brown, but I can get Devontae Adams, Chris Godwin, maybe Deebo Samuel this year, guys along those lines as well. And that's where I usually go for my veterans, or, like, those guys that people don't like. I guess if that makes sense.
Listen, I think they're all good veteran options, but I think AJ Brown is a very good to excellent option. You know what I mean? Like, I think there is a tier difference between those players.
I agree.
So, that's the last I'm going to say on AJ Brown, because I feel like we spent 10 minutes on AJ Brown and 5 minutes on Goofy.
To be fair, I have Chris Godwin at 144 and Devontae Adams at 142, so they're literally like twice as low as him as well. But that's the value that I would like.
And AJ Brown's headed there. You know what I mean? I'm not even debating that. Like, he's going down.
Right.
It's in the next couple of years. He's going to be down in the 140s. Just for me, he's not there. I think he's going to have a resurgence in New England here for the next couple of seasons anyway.
And I'm really glad you guys had the discussion that you guys did, because I think this is really good to frame this for the audience. People want to look at rankings and take that as the gospel truth. And in reality, this is just the best we can do with the ambiguous situation that we have, but nothing ever happens in a vacuum. All drafts go differently. All trades go differently. Just because I have one player ranked ahead of another player in a situation, maybe I have, Jamar Chase ranked ahead of Bijan Robinson or vice versa. Well, my team might really need that elite running back, and I have plenty of wide receivers. I might be willing to make that trade because that's what my team needs. And so that's the thing that makes it really, really hard. And you do get put into a box a little bit on ranking sometimes, when in reality, especially without tiers too, sometimes, there could be 20 picks apart, but they're actually in the same tier for me. So you could put almost all these players in a box, mix them up, and I'm not going to argue a lot with that. So that is the hard part. So don't take these as the gospel truth, but they are a good framework for how to value players.
Well said.
All right, let's go to I'm going to skip around a little bit on this sheet because I feel like it's a similar conversation to the one we just had on the next player. So I'll mix it up a little bit. Let's go down to this one will be more me and Rich on this one. And this is Kenneth Walker. And honestly, both you and Rich, Matt, both you guys are pretty close to consensus on Kenneth Walker. His consensus is a running back 11, and he's the 43rd player off the board in Superflex tight end premium. Rich, you're the lowest. You have him 41st overall, so slightly above consensus, but you have him at running back 8, so 3 running back spots higher. Matt, you're at 47, so just a few spots lower, but you have him at running back 12, so 1 spot lower. I'm really more of the outlier on this one. I have him at 65. So I have him 22 spots lower, and I have him at running back 14. And this is a hard one because I know on paper, I feel like I should be more excited about Kenneth Walker than I actually am. He goes to this really good, exciting offense, a coach that, in the past has done a good job using running backs and making them really valuable. But our more recent memory is things haven't actually been great for the Kansas City running backs. Honestly, this decade really hasn't. Since 2020, we haven't really gotten tons of production out of the running back room. And what we've seen a lot is a lot of different committees, a lot of guys playing different roles. Some guys first and second down, some guys third down, some guys passing games, some guys, and it's all over the place. Now, I think Kenneth Walker is probably the most talented running back that they've had in this time, which does make things a little bit different. Now, I think they expected CH to be the most talented. They spent a first-round pick on it. It just didn't work out. But I think actual talent, Kenneth Walker probably has the most. But part of this was looking at him, and part of this was also looking at other players. And I'm gonna say something, and I think for some people this is going to sound sacrilegious, but when I really started putting in kind of the work on these guys, there was 2 things that stuck out. One, Kenneth Walker's never been a passing down guy. That's never been a big part of his game. And we've always seen, at least since 2020, kind of a specialized player in there for the passing game. Does that switch this time? Maybe, but they've drafted 2 guys in back-to-back years that both specialize in pass catching, in Brashard Smith and in Emmett Johnson, which lends me to believe that they might still want to have another guy that's more the pass catching option. The other thing, and this is the part that I think might be sacrilegious for some people, I had a hard time deciding, do I like Kenneth Walker or even a guy that most people have lower, Javonte Williams, more? And I know on the surface it seems like, whoa. How are these guys even in the same breath? Well, they're less than a year apart from each other. They're practically the same age. And realistically, if Kenneth Walker on his new team did exactly what Javonte did last year, I think we would all consider that a huge victory. I think we would all be thrilled with that. So in my mind, why take the guy that I'm hoping gets to where Javonte Williams was last year and just take Javonte Williams for me? So that's kind of where I'm at. What do you guys think about Kenneth Walker?
Yeah, I mean, Javonte's your guy, kind of like AJ Brown's Matt's guy. So I get that argument, and we're going to talk about a player again who's becoming my guy. And for me, I actually flipped him as well. And I know you said make sure your ranks are okay, but like I actually put the two guys I had right behind him, Jonathan Taylor and James Cook, right ahead of him. And for me, it just boils down to Kenneth Walker is, like I said, he's probably probably the most talented. He is the most talented player that Kansas City is going to have behind the running back since rookie year 2017 of Kareem Hunt, right? Isaiah Pacheco has been solid when given the opportunities. Who's not a pass catcher running back, out there. This scheme, Andy Reid's running backs, when they have a talented running back, produce at a high level. And when you look at a guy like Kenneth Walker, who played at the age of 25 for most of this season, is a very talented running back. He's a big guy who's also got really good speed and has a really good job getting to the edge. I think he's going to handle the touches in this offense. It has a lot of uncertainty at receiver right now. Like the world's on fire for Cyrus Allen. Rashee Rice is, considered a knucklehead. Xavier Worthy hasn't lived up to the hype right now. Travis Kelce just got married, is almost qualified for retirement. So like, right now, like you could see like Andy Reid kind of like focus on a run game and look what he's coming off of too. Like his Super Bowl playoff run there, Kenneth Walker, like he looked absolutely fantastic coming out as the Super Bowl MVP. And this is just a really talented guy in a market right now where there's just not a lot of options at running back at a high level. So when it comes back to, again, like supply and demand, same thing with like how I have quarterbacks higher right now. Like I really do value some of these running backs so much more, because if Kenneth Walker is running back 6 going into the year and my team does go sideways, I'm going to get way more for Kenneth Walker than I'm going to get for guys like, Mekhi Lemon, Zay Flowers, Jaylen Waddle. Like I'm just going to get more naturally because people want that player, right? Like it's a little bit harder to coax a first round pick, definitely in 27 for a lot of guys, but the running back position's always one that can get it done because you're like, okay, I can't trade for this receiver, but I can trade for this receiver because there's so many of them. Running backs is not the case when the actual like you're in play. So they have a guy who's 25 years old, who's very talented, who's got some insulation from a contract in an offense that has a proven history of giving talented running backs high-end fantasy football production. I just can't get him any lower in that range. Like I really do value him as much as I value like Jonathan Taylor and James Cook, like we're in that range. I value him more than Cam Scatterbu. I value him more than Quinshon Judkins. And like, if you want to argue Quinshon Judkins, who's 22, I'll take that argument for sure. It's like he's my next running back, so like I'm not going to argue that too. And Javonte Williams is another fine example of like someone I'm not going to argue against if Javonte's your guy, right? I just wonder, like I look at, and here's another thing with Kenneth Walker. I think he's going to score touchdowns in this offense. I really do. And I think to offset between him and a guy like Javonte Williams, I could see a lot more big play, like receiving touchdowns out of George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, using Jake Ferguson in the red zone, how they do. So, and that's just like a slight edge. And I can argue Cam Scotty, who I like, and say Quinshon Judkins in that tier as well. But for me, that's what it just comes down to. And these are difficult decisions, but like that's the one position, even in a startup, if you don't grab a running back like within the first couple rounds, and like you're like, dude, I build young receivers, right? I build on young receivers. It's super flex. I got to grab a good tight end as well. You're in the 6th round, and you're like, oh shit, like, oh no, my starting running back's DeAndre Swift, or like now you're taking Christian McCaffrey, and you're like, it's not for long, right? Like, so it really is like almost even like a security thing why I have them so much higher as well, because there's definitely out of a startup, right? Like out of a startup, you're probably way more prone to find some people like that are have-nots than haves or super things. Then you'll find some guys as well where they do take the running back early. They take a Bijan or a Gibbs, and they're like, all right, I got that. Now I got to get my quarterback, my tight end, my receivers. And then now their second running back is DeAndre Swift, and their third running back's Kyle Monangai. And they're like, oh no. And they have a good team, right? Now they find them in a position they can compete, but they don't have the running back that they need. And now that, like, if things went sideways for me, I could really hold their feet to the fire for Kenneth Walker. So like it's like that trade asset is so valuable in season, like not out season. We know these kind of players, like they lose value so quickly. And I don't even like trading for running backs in the off season, but when you get in season, it really holds well. And when I think the production we're going to get out of Kenneth Walker, I really put that in the idea of like dynasty goal, which is running back 1 kind of category. Mid-range running back 1 too is what I think his ceiling is.
So this is where I mean, I am at running back 12, right? I mean, last year he was running back 22. The thing about last year, he did catch some passes. I mean, he caught some passes last year, the year before. I mean, he's never caught under 27 passes. It was 27, 29, 46, and 24, and then last year 31. But last year he was splitting carries with Zach Charbonnet, who had like 184, 185, something like that attempts, to Kenneth Walker's 221. He's not going to have that in Kansas City. Neither one of those guys that are on the roster are really a threat in that manner. So he's going to get a lot of work. Even if he doesn't catch 60 balls, he's going to get probably 250, 260 carries this year, which is a nice little uptick for him. So I do think, he's got a lot of room to go up from running back 22 last year, just off that alone. And last year was a bit of a down year for his touchdowns, only 5. He's had 9, 8, 7, and last year 5. So to Rich's point, I do probably see him getting closer to that 7, 8 range at the very least. I think he's going to be a guy that can hit that bottom tier of the running back ones pretty easily. If he was a guy, if somehow he got the passing game role and caught 50 balls, 55 balls, then that's where you hit the jackpot. And he is, running back 6, running back 7 on the year.
For what it's worth, and this is, what we're talking about, my projections next show. I think I have him projected fairly favorably, but it actually still puts him at running back 15. Now, granted, this is assuming all these players play 17 games. We know they don't, but that's just for projection's sake. That's what we're looking at. So I have him at 250 carries, 1,150 yards, 10 rushing touchdowns, and then 40 targets, 30 receptions for 192 yards, and then an additional receiving touchdown. So I think that's a good season, but that's still because the receiving volume isn't there. It still only puts him at running back 15 at 13.4 points per game. So that would be
short amount of yards.
What's that?
I think you're short amount of yards. I think he's gonna be closer to like a 1,300, 12 to 1,300 yard rushing.
If so, that's the case. That's pretty impressive. That's him averaging 4.6 yards per carry on 250 carries. It's possible, but it would definitely that would elevate him a ton.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we know the story, right? Kenneth Walker, we've heard for years, kind of, it's the pass pro, right? Like if he can pick that up and kind of get that part of his game figured out here with Kansas City, then maybe he will get more passing down work. And if not, then it's going to be either Emmett Johnson, who's reportedly having a pretty good camp, or last year's draft pick, Brashard Smith, who, I mean, came in pretty raw as a guy that transitioned from wide receiver. So absolutely. I think those guys, Brashard Smith was no good at really pass pro either. So it's going to be down to like Kenneth Walker's pass pro or like a rookie's pass pro.
Emmett Johnson.
So it might be Kenneth Walker
or DeMarcado. I think DeMarcado's there as well.
Oh yeah, DeMarcado is there. You're right. So he might get that kind of work as well, mixed in on obvious situations where they're keeping a guy in. You might see DeMarcado come in. Who knows?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see, but yeah, that's why I didn't have 8. I didn't have the 8 because I'm not sure he's going to get that passing down work, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't get crazy.
Before we go on to the next guy, let me tell everybody, our friends over at my FFPC. Forget startups at this point. Like, we're getting close to the season. If you haven't done a startup yet, you're probably out. But I got some great news. Over at my FFPC right now, they have 3 season-long tournaments, and there's a clean entry point at every budget, right? And we're talking mucho dinero. I apologize for going bilingual on y'all, but that's a lot of money is what we're talking about. Much dollars, big dollars. They have the baby gorilla, the big gorilla, and the main event. Okay. The baby gorilla is $125 with $100,000 to first. The big gorilla is $350 with $1 million grand prize. And then there's the main event, FFP's flagship, with a $1 million grand prize. More than $6.5 million in prize pool in drafts online, or they have that live Vegas event as well. These are managed leagues with lineups and waivers all season. If you spent the summer grinding rankings and ADP, why not put that prep to work? For most first-time FFPC players, the Baby Gorilla is where I'd start. Go over to myffpc.com. Make sure you use that promo code NERDS. You're going to get $25 off your first team. So that $125 entry turns into $100. Get you a chance to win a $100,000 grand prize and get some serious cash in your pocket. Go over to myffpc.com. Use that promo code NERDS. Get a free $25 and treat me to coffee next time you see me after you win some of that cash.
So I'm gonna say this, and I want to make sure that I'm heard correctly when I say this. Hello, I'm ugly is not just a slogan. It's a way of life. All right. It's a way of life. This brand started with Ben's grandma. That's right. This recipe was Ben's grandma. She was the one that used to dry fruit. Hear this, on her roof. She would dry fruit on her roof. I don't think they still do it that way, but that's how it was inspired. But hello, I'm ugly. I literally had more plums today because it was a perfect snack before heading to my daughter's volleyball game. It's an amazing, amazing product. It says ugly on there, but here's the reason. It's not because this is bad fruit. It's not rotten fruit. It's not something, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, maybe it's colored slightly different than the perfect, pristine, cherry or whatever. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not rotten. It's a perfectly good fruit that they slice up and dry, just like Ben's grandma did back in the day. But yet now they can ship it. You don't have to go to Ben's grandma's house to get it. All you have to do is head to your local Walmart. That's right. You don't have to know. I don't know what Ben's grandma's name is, but you don't have to go to her house. You can just head to Walmart. They even have it at Sam's Club as well. So if you're a Sam's Club person, you can find it there. So look for the Hello, I'm Ugly from the Ugly Company, the best dried fruit around.
I feel like if you dry fruit on your roof, you're the same kind of person that would shoot someone with a shotgun if they trespass on your property.
Probably.
But you got things to protect.
Yeah. I think you would probably also have like a bunch of canned stuff in your basement. I think
that's my aunt right there.
Yeah.
My aunt is a crazy canner. She loves to can things. She's Italian though. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
All delicious stuff. I've had your aunt's
it's all fantastic. It is all very good.
All right, let's get to this next one here. This is going to be more for Matt and Rich on this one. And we're going to be talking a little Bryce Young. Matt, you're not feeling it as much. You have him at quarterback 29 and the 134th player off the board in Superflex tight end premium. Rich, however, you have him 44 spots higher at 90th overall, quarterback 24. Rich, you're a little closer to consensus. You're a little higher, actually. Consensus is 104, quarterback 27. I'm sitting at 125, quarterback 27. So I'm a little closer to Matt than I am consensus. But Rich, what has you feeling decent about Bryce Young? Because you have him as your last potential quarterback too in Dynasty.
Yeah, and even staring at it now, I'd probably honestly put him at quarterback 27, right behind Kyler Murray, Matt Stafford. Or 26, like him and Tyler Shough, like there's not a big difference for me. Like,
except Shough can see over the line. I mean, come on, man. This guy's listen.
I
Bryce Young is overcoming a lot of stuff, right?
Yes.
To be in the National Football League. He was the number one pick. He hasn't lived up to the hype. He's got this year. I know they might have picked up the. This is it. If he doesn't prove that he can take a team to the playoffs and become a potential he's done, guys. It's it. I'm not ranking him any higher than this because he's a temporary holding spot for the next guy that comes in a draft class that is just okay. Give me a break. Look, Price.
Listen, it's just
I feel good. Listen, this is great. I mean, he's overcome. He's done a really good job to get back to being kind of relevant, but we all know that that's not good enough in the NFL to be kind of relevant. You have to be a legitimate NFL starter that can get your team to the Super Bowl for any team to make a long-term type of investment in you and to keep you around. They're already looking for this guy's replacement. The only reason he's still here is because they haven't gotten it yet.
Ooh, he went lower. I had to move Ty Simpson up.
I think
awesome preseason performance.
I think the rankings debate brings out a different animal in Matt, because I don't know that I've ever heard you both talk at the same time and Matt talk over you and win. This is a new beast that I'm seeing right here. This is shocking.
I'm seeing players I look
about how bad Bryce Young is.
I'm actually seeing players I have ranked below him that I'm like slowly moving up and moving down. Like I just moved Striblin up. I'd definitely rather have Wandale Robinson as well. DJ Moore's looked fantastic in Buffalo out there. So this would put Bryce Young all the way down to 99 so far for me. And listen, Matt, you're right. This is likely the end. It's just like Bryce Young always just has like, I know he's up and down. He's not great, but like he's had another, again, I heard he's had a solid camp. Like he can't stay over the line, but he puts the ball in nice places. He gets the job done. Like, and even as like quarterback, like 19, 20, like that's still a high enough scoring player for me. Like if he anyhow gets an extension, then that's where the value is. And that's where I'm kind of weighing at is like, the Carolina Panthers make the playoffs again now, and they're playing such a bad division as well. Like, and they somehow win a game, they'll probably extend them for like a 3-year deal, whatever. Yeah, like because they'll be out of the range for the quarterbacks. I don't know. It's weird. Like because I don't want to argue for Bryce Young, but like
they sunk
he's
so
a 25-year-old
much into him that they have to give him as much leash as they possibly can. You think Dave Canales is like, all right, sweet. No, Bryce, yeah, definitely give Bryce Young an extension. He's my quarterback forever. No, frick no, man. Give me a break, man. Get out of here.
I mean,
they're looking for another guy.
I mean, like I have like people behind him, like David Montgomery. I guess David Montgomery.
Look at the stud wide receivers that they're putting together at this. Like, come on,
this is another tough one too, because I feel like in a draft, you might draft him lower, but any quarterback in a super flex trade, you're going to like want more. So that's where like quarterbacks are really, really tough to rank. I think they're the hardest players to rank because in super flex, you expect to get, I mean, at least the top 16 to 18 quarterbacks, you expect a first round pick for. You're not getting that for Bryce Young, but you would expect at least a second for Bryce Young because he's a starting quarterback. And how many players would you take a second for? So it is quarterbacks in Superflex are really tough to rank.
They are. I just don't have any faith that he's actually going to be around long term. All joking aside, he really did overcome and show something last year.
He did.
That he can at least kind of function in the NFL, which I had questions about for a long time. So he's really is overcoming and doing better than I thought he could. I just don't think it's good enough that any NFL team is going to be like, that's my guy.
Yeah.
So that makes him just a short-term asset for me.
Let's go to this one. And Matt, this is going to be more on me and you on this one. Let's talk about Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is consensus 125, tight end 16. Matt, you also have him at tight end 16. However, you have him at 148, so 23 spots lower than consensus. However, I'm on the other side of it, and I have him roughly 30 spots ahead at 94, tight end 12. So I'm definitely more on board with Mark Andrews than I think you are, and it's a tough one. I'm not going to be mad at anybody. Like, this is not a hill I'm necessarily willing to die on because the past couple of years have been a little less for Mark Andrews. I don't know if it's the offense. I don't know if it was Isaiah Likely. I don't know if it's age. I don't know 100% what it is. But what I do know is there's a lot of vacated targets, and this is an offense that I do expect to throw the ball more. So I think on those two things combined, I think that there is going to be increased total targets for Mark Andrews this year. But the fair question that I'm sure you're going to ask is, for how long? He's 31. You know, he's not the youngest guy. So I can go either way on this one. Like I said, this one I think I might move him down a little bit. but I really do think that there's a chance that he could be very surprising. And at the end of the year, like, oh man, can you believe Mark Andrews was tight end 6 at this point? And I think all of these tight ends in this range, I just don't know if any of them are that great. So I think that's the hard part of it too for me, is I just don't know that I strongly feel one's better than any of the others.
Yeah, I mean, obviously last year was a bit of a weird year right there in Baltimore. I feel like it's hard. Do you have any Mark Andrews shares where you're?
I do. I
on him?
probably have.
Okay.
It's not a crazy amount, but it's probably in the 20-25% of my team's range.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of shares of him. I do have him on a couple of teams where I was kind of relying on him last year, and it was hard to rely on him. I feel like, that was my memory. And then I just looked at it, and it was tight end. Like if you go week to week, tight end 51, tight end 55, tight end 2, tight end 17, tight end 34, tight end 27. Like that's hard. That's hard to figure out kind of, and that's the beginning of the year when things were kind of good. And then he hit tight end 21, 5, 9, 5, 39, 17. And then it was 46, 39, 36, 25, 41. I know the end of the season, that was Lamar injured last year?
Yeah, Lamar was in and out all season.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of it could have been that, because that, it's Lamar and Mark Andrews that kind of have that connection. Obviously the new offense is a bit of a question mark as to how exactly who that's going to flow through, but I would imagine that connection is still going to be there. So I don't dislike Mark Andrews, but I have a hard time putting a lot of my faith in him as a guy that I'm going to want to start week in and week out. He feels more like a guy that, hey, if I got a really good starter that maybe is injured sometimes, I'll have Mark Andrews as my second guy to kind of fill in if I need him for a stretch. But I don't want to have him in there every single game because you get clunkers. And I think that's kind of inherent even with Lamar in the lineup. That can be a thing, because some games Lamar's just going to take over and just going to run the ball, and they're going to cover the tight end and kind of take that option away, and Lamar's going to go somewhere else or run like crazy. So I don't know. For me, could I move him up? Probably a little bit. I don't have my rankings open ahead of me, but I mean, it's not like I have a tight end 16. Rich has him at tight end 16, but we're like 25 point spaces off. So maybe there's some just room for me to bump him up without even hopping over a tight end. You know what I mean?
I swear I read something recently. I think it was a local beat reporter, and said it looks like Mark Andrews might have possibly lost a step. Like he's not getting the separation that he usually does. Because Mark Andrews always moved really well for his size and was always able to get some good separation.
Well, he got that hip drop tackle a couple years back, right? Or was that?
Yeah, he did.
Something that was in my notes from like a week ago, I think. Okay. I saw it, and I can't remember who saw it. It just because I was with you, Garrett. Like I was kind of like, oh, I think Mark Andrews have a good year, and like all the rise of like Jacoby Lane, right? Like in any other target outside of the number 2 in Baltimore, and it's like, oh, good grief. Like we'll see the new offense, but it seems like he might have potentially lost a step. I think Mark Andrews might live closer to that, like the whatever range of tight ends right there, and like see a couple more guys step up.
All right, we will see. Yeah, because that does happen to some guys. Some guys play beautifully into their 30s, and other guys they get into that range and the wheels fall off. So we'll kind of have to wait and see how that one plays out. Let's go to this guy here, Rich. You were kind of I don't want to say ranting and raving, but you were excitably talking about this guy before the show, and that was Mr. KC Concepcion, wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns. His consensus is 76, wide receiver 29. I'm pretty much in lockstep with it. I have him at 73, wide receiver 28. And honestly, Matt's not far off at 81 and wide receiver 30. Really, this one's more about you, Rich. You have him significantly higher at 57, wide receiver 22. So
wide receiver 19 now.
Oh, you're actively moving him up even more. Okay. Well, this is only going to strengthen your case, hopefully. So I don't know that Matt and I really need to debate with you. I think we more just need your case as to why everyone is too low on KC.
So let me explain. I think the best way is to explain it and what I'm getting roasted. And everybody who's listening, I'm guaranteeing 90% of you are going to say that's fine too. But I'm not afraid to go get guys that I like. And I gave up Tyler Shough and Jaylen Waddle in a super flex league for KC Concepcion. And listen, I understand they overpaid. That was the price it was going to take to get KC Concepcion. One, like he's a hot name right now after his preseason game and reports kind of camp. Being here in Cleveland, like I'm way more tapped in on these guys because like I literally read about every training camp practice. I listen to all the coaches' interviews. I read all the beat reporters every day. I'm really tied into Cleveland football, like even more than anything else. And, the reports going back over a week ago, and Garrett, I tried to bring this up lightly for like the last 2 weeks. I'm like, man, Denzel Boston's great. But like everybody's talking about him. Like Casey, I want everybody to know KC Concepcion's having a really good camp too. Like I've said that twice now. He's had a really good camp. Like I'm seeing since OTAs, like the catches this guys are making away from his body. It's gross. And the reason I moved him up recently, and the reason I made this trade was that the reports out of last week were like the new offense is really going to try and design a lot of ways to get the ball in KC Concepcion's hands. That's the game plan, right? They want him to be the focal point of the offense. They want to get the ball in his hands, and they want to manufacture touches for him. I've seen a lot of comps to this player recently. Percy Harvin back in the Minnesota days. When we watched KC Concepcion's tape, we said that he was arguably the most dynamic player in this draft with the ball in his hands, right? And then after just seeing it in the first preseason game, some of the remember they showed the basic concepts in the preseason. 2 end arounds, the short pass, the one down the sidelines, and then on top of that, I went back and watched the game, and I was just watching KC, and I was watching him just consistently get separation even when he was not the target. This to me just reminds me of a player that is going to be, a PPR darling in Dynasty. I really am excited for where the Cleveland offense is going when they get a quarterback in the future. I love the core of Denzel Boston, Isaiah Bond, KC Concepcion, Harold Fanning, Quinshon Junkins, and Dylan Sampson. I love it. I thought, the offensive line looks good. So they're getting a good quarterback in here as well. I look at it where, like, I like Jaylen Waddle a lot. I talked him up. He's going to be 28 years old here in a couple months. So we'll see his value go down. His value already isn't high. Even after getting traded for what he got for in Denver, you can't get a 27 first, Jaylen Waddle, right? Like, that's not happening. Tyler Shough's a nice quarterback. Could he turn into something good? Could he potentially? Yeah. But Garrett, I've been talking about this as well. Like, Kyler Murray gets a bump, but the 27 class of quarterbacks is going to bump everybody down and everybody stepping up. So unless Tyler Shough turns into a stud, like, I don't see his value like jumping up either. So I had an opportunity to go get a 21-year-old receiver who I think has the potential to be the number one receiver in this class outside of like Cardinal Tate, right? But like from a PPR standpoint, potentially. Like, so a player that I think's electric, has got some twitch to his game, this dynamic with the football in his hands, that the coaching staff is going to design touches for him to make sure that he's seeing the ball and get enough to score production. I value that a ton, and I weigh that the age. I moved him up ahead of Mekhi Lemon and Jordan Tyson in my rankings, and I like both those. I think Mekhi Lemon's a dog. I really do. I just really like the player, and I'm getting really excited out of not just this is not what I just saw in a preseason game, but what I've seen every single day out of practice out of KC Concepcion. So I just really love the player. And when I'm looking here, like, this is a player that, to me, that like I would qualify as like, I want to draft a round early so I don't miss out. So like, I understand people's view of saying, wow, you just got waxed on Twitter when I gave up Tyler Shough and Jaylen Waddle. Because Jaylen Waddle could very easily outproduce KC Concepcion in 2026. And even potentially in 2027, we'll see. But, when they get, the Browns are in year 2 of the quarterback they go out and get. And again, all rumors out of Cleveland forever have been Jimmy Haslam will do whatever it takes to get Arch Manning because he's close with the Mannings, right? If they get a good quarterback, when that quarterback's in year 2, KC Concepcion will be 23 years old, right? So, like, I got myself a long-term asset that I believe in, And my team, other receivers, I think of Drake London on that team and somebody else. Like my team's a young core, right? Like my other quarterbacks are Caleb Williams and Jordan Love as well. So like I understand this. It goes to our talk of dynasty, Garrett. Like it's easy to talk fair value in a vacuum, right? But when you're in a league and you want to get a player that just, and this player, the owner said like, hey man, like I like KC. I did not want to give him up. But I couldn't refuse that offer. Like sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to shock a player like, oh, wow, this is really good value. I can't pass this up, right? And then in 2 years, you're like, oh, I wish I would have passed that up. And I look at this as a 2-year down the road trade where like I'm going to come out a winner, and then I'll be the winner for 5 more years after that in my dynasty team in high stakes league. So going back to the player itself, like if you take Mekhi Lemon and Jordan Tyson today over him, totally fine, not arguing it. But then behind him, I have Luther Burden. I like KC more. Jaylen Waddle, obviously I traded him. Nico Collins, Rashee Rice, T. Higgins, Jamison Williams. I'll totally listen on JMO for sure, but like I'll say I'm slightly biased there because he's a Cleveland Brown. So if I have a tie, if there's a tie between Jamison Williams and KC Concepcion, the Brown will always win out. So we can all agree, right? This is a player's tape that we watched that we liked a lot, right? Like we thought he was a very talented player. Some of the concerns we saw were drops. Catching everything in camp for the most part. He had a couple drops, like very early. He's catching everything. Yeah. He's catching everything. So I just see a really dynamic player that I think that I'm getting ahead of the curve on. That is what I think. I'm gonna get ahead of the curve on. And this
overpay today is an underpay tomorrow.
3 months from now. Yeah, and so I saw somebody that said that's the dumbest thing that's ever come on the show, which I love the saying. But like. That's what this is the epitome of that, Garrett. I think an overpay today is underpay tomorrow. This is how I define that. And these are trades that I make. And I feel the history of me playing Dynasty for 22 years, I've been right more than I've been wrong in these scenarios when my gut tells me to go this way for this kind of player. And I'm willing to lose that, like the overall fantasy value in 26. I think this is a great dynasty investment for me. And what I really like is I think his floor is extremely safe for me. I think, if he doesn't live up and have a great year, like he's a wide receiver too, right? Like, but they're going to manufacture touches and use them how we saw in the preseason week 1. This is somebody who could be a wide receiver 1 in the NFL.
Yeah, I get it. I'm with you. I think he's a great player. I think that you're definitely on the high side of things right now. Absolutely. So like value wise, yeah, I'm like 3 spots out of consensus. So I'm not much, but I'm with you. I want to be ahead of the curve. But there are certain times where you're just like, I'm all in. Like I believe in what I've seen, and maybe I'll be wrong, but I'm convinced, and I'd rather go down with a ship that I believe in than fake it. So I respect it.
And listen, and part of the game is part of doing these rankings and being an analyst is like people are like, oh, I got to see a little bit more. If you see a little bit more, you're too late, right? Like you got to be a little bit ahead. I mean, same thing. Like, listen, I was dead wrong about JJ McCarthy. I was saying this stuff about JJ McCarthy a year ago, right? Like, but then like in February, I was telling everybody to go out and buy Jonathan Brooks. Like, I really think like this is going to turn into like really good. And now look at where Jonathan Brooks' value is today. Like I want like. If I would have posted some of the trades I made for Jonathan Brooks in February, people would be like, oh, you got waxed. You overpaid, right? Like, yeah. But now people are like, oh, wow, like Jonathan Brooks has the potential to be a very solid product. That's not even means to be good, but the value has already changed. You know what I mean? From that standpoint. And I hate when people say like, oh, I need to see a little bit more. But if you do that, then the value now you're not getting it. Now I'm not giving Jaylen Waddle and Tyler Shough for KC Concepcion. Like it's not going to get done. I'm just going to decline. And honestly, for the most part, when those players kind of turn in that, they almost become unattainable because they're 21, 22, 23, right? Like you can get them, you have to overpay, but like Malik Neighbors last year after week 4.
You can't even field a team. You know what I mean? Like a full team. But you got your guy, right? I mean, sweet. All right. I gave up 3 first-round draft picks and a player. Like, awesome.
Yeah, and those windows close. Like, I think Marv, like, I really do think, like, I know we all love Marv. Like, my other gut feeling guy is, like, I think Marv is going to hit. Like, he's going to turn into what we want him to be. And maybe he'll never be what we thought he could be, was, like, the number 1 overall receiver. But, like, there's a window there, and I'm just always looking window. And I think I think KC's window is about to shut here pretty quickly.
Makes sense. All right. Do we want to try to sneak one more in here?
You have to be a quickie.
All right. Quick one real quick. Jonah Coleman. Rich, you have him the lowest at 138 overall, running back 31. You're not super far off from consensus, though, running back 30, 124 overall. Matt, you're at 117 overall, running back 25. I have him the highest here at 100, running back 25 off the board. And Matt and I, we kind of agree on the same ranking of the running backs. You just have them a little bit lower in your overall. But for me, this is starting to be a little reminiscent of another running back in Sean Payton's offense, where he wasn't a super highly drafted guy, but there was a good drumbeat all camp, and there were two veterans ahead that were kind of in the way, and we weren't sure this guy would get much playing time. And then lo and behold, Alvin Kamara in his rookie season went gangbusters. I think people forget Mark Ingram was in his prime when that happened. And he went on to have a successful career with Baltimore after that and a couple other teams. Adrian Peterson, he was old, but he was there as well in the way. Didn't matter. Alvin Kamara. I think we're going to start to see the same thing from Jonah Coleman. We've been getting good reports all camp from him, and he's the one guy that does everything well in this offense, and we're not as worried about the injuries. Then you add into the fact that I love Sean Payton's comments in the game. He gave him 4 carries, and they were like, well, why didn't you let him get more carries? And he was like, I saw what I needed to see. He looked exactly like the guy I've seen all camp, and so I didn't need to see any more. Those kind of things.
The early exit's a very good sign.
It's a very good sign. So
it's the number one thing tingling in my head, and it's the number one thing that makes me feel I'm wrong on this was that single thing. It's just Sean Payton's offense always uses 2 running backs, and I've also read that RJ Harvey's looked really good on third down, and Benjamin Albright's always the guy like I read coming out of Denver and stuff, and he says like it looks like it's RJ Harvey's job on third downs and the pass catch and roll right there. J.K. Dobbins is still there too, and like he's looking at offense, and you're right. Like I like Jonah Coleman's tape as well, so like it's like he was one of the running back like they'd be good. I am probably too low, but like I need a little bit more because I know JK's banged.
Then you're going to be too late, Rich. Then you're going to be too
late.
late.
You're going to be too late. You're not going to get him.
you're but like, that's one thing. Like I'm always okay too.
But you're okay.
You're okay. It's a weird. So, they spent a second round pick in RJ Harvey. They just signed J.K. Dobbins to a 2-year extension, who almost averaged 5 yards per carry when he was in that same exact offense, right? Like, and he's promising to be healthy all year, and he's made a promise, got banged up in training camp. So like, you're right. The only thing, like I heard he's had a good solid camp. All that is whatever to me. It's what he did in the first preseason game, and then Sean Payton's comments afterward is the only thing that's got me second guessing myself. And I'm paying close attention is the best way to say it.
I like it.
And you're right. But I like same concept for you that I'm making an argument. That's a player, Garrett, that when you believe in, you take a couple rounds ahead, a round ahead of consensus to make sure you get your guy. Yep. And definitely where he's going, it's okay to miss out on him. Like I have him and Dylan Sampson in the same role, and same range, but it makes sense to take a guy like Jonah Coleman because Jonah Coleman has a much better shot of being like the guy.
Dylan Sampson's a weird guy to watch because I feel like you'll see him run like 3 plays and you're like, this guy's pretty pedestrian, and then all of a sudden he just breaks off like 2 or 3 really good. Oh, you're like, oh, there it is. All right, never mind. He can actually function in the NFL, and he is not just Duke Johnson. Like maybe he actually can get a role here.
I was sad when he got drafted after Quinshon Judkins in the 4th. Remember, the Browns took him in the 4th round. Like he wasn't like some 7th round pick. Like they want to use him. They kind of want to use Dylan Sampson exactly how they use him. Like they want to get him in space. Those dump off, the screens, things on those, and get him in space because he's so fast. Like he's a 4.3 guy. So, but yeah, I mean Jonah Coleman's like nice, and you're right. Like, but for me, like when I'm in that range, Garrett, like I'm looking at guys like because we talked about earlier, like I just need running backs to get me points. Like I'm looking at the Chris Rodriguez, Kenneth Gainwell's, report came out of camp. I think it was yesterday. Baker Mayfield talking up Kenneth Gainwell. Like I didn't know how like electric this guy was. Definitely in the passing game. Like it's like, oh yeah, baby. Like I traded for a lot of Kenny Gainwell this offseason, by the way. But I mean, I always practice what I preach, right? Like we're three friends, we're three analysts that like. That's why I like doing this show. Like we could talk things out and kind of figure out like, yeah, you're right. And you changed my mind. And Garrett, every time we do a show, we adjust our ranks accordingly.
Always.
Like it's a tricky game, Dynasty. You know what I mean? And it's like, but like things that we talk about, like we're pretty much practicing, like we're studying the game and giving you our opinion. And we're just a couple guys that usually are right more than we're wrong. But like, back in the day, or not back in the day, but like 3 months ago, I was saying, dude, the guys you want to go trade for today are Chris Rodriguez, Kenneth Gainwell, and oh my gosh,
Jonathan Brooks.
Well, yeah, Jonathan Brooks was early, but there was another guy too that was the backup guy. Was it Jonathan Brooks? Those are my three guys.
Would make sense.
Anyway, it's like all so far, great reports on Jonathan Brooks, probably gonna be the starter. Kenneth Gainwell, the reports are really good. And Chris Rodriguez is literally fighting Bayshall too for the starting job, not even just touches for the starting job. So the running back one's always tricky when you get outside those
elite guys.
number one guys. But again, if you
stud guys, right?
I talk about Andy Reid's running back. Like if you get Sean Payton's number one running back and it's Jonah Coleman, he's young, like talking about value, right? Like
could be crazy.
Oh my goodness. So Garrett, you're probably right in that one, and I probably need to move him up. But give me a little bit. Give me another taste.
Give me a little bit more. Give me a little more. All right, that wraps things up for our rankings debate.
Good show, guys. Adios.